This broadcast package on Clare FM is funded by the Local Democracy Reporting Scheme.
So basically anyone earning up to €20,000 a year will get a 60% discount off the market value. Anybody on 20 to 30,000 would have a 50% discount, and anyone in excess of €30,000 a year would have a 40% discount on the market value. And they can apply to us to purchase the property, provided that the funds will go through the process with them. There is obviously a charge back on the property if they sell it again. So, for example, if you got a 40% discount, there'll be a charge back for 20 years at 2% per year. So if you sell it in the first 20 years, you'll owe us back a few pound, which I think is reasonable enough, seeing as you're getting a good quality property at good discount.
And a good quality property it may be, but something that you mentioned was that there are 2 local authorities, included our neighbours in Limerick, which are doing this for newly built homes as well. Councillor Tommy Guilfoyle queried if that could be rolled out here. Is that something that will be explored?
Yeah, it's in place in Limerick and a couple of other local authorities, so we are exploring it, and that's why we brought it to the attention of the members of the committee today. It's whereby you could designate a small number of properties in a new build scheme for what they call new build tenant incremental purchase. Would be open to existing tenants, to HAP tenants, RAS tenants who might be in a position to purchase a house.
We also had presentations and updates on the housing list for people with disabilities. And what might surprise a lot of listeners is, I believe, out of the 2,700 and more that require social housing in Clare, over 300 of them have some form of disability. So it's one question to ask, are we tackling the social housing list? Are we tackling the disability housing list as well? Or are we providing homes for people that require a bit more adaptations?
Yeah, we are on. We did, I think, 475 people in our households in total have a disability need, which is about 17% of our total need. And last year's allocations, we allocated 381 properties in total, and I think nearly 19 or 20% of those are allocated to people with disability needs. So we are, I think, working closely with the HSE on prioritising households, and we are meeting the need, slowly but surely,
There's also a number of traveller accommodation properties that are on the housing list. Roughly 2% of the social housing list represent traveller households, but we've quite a lot of homes to be refurbished as well.
There's 80 households, traveller households on the housing list, which is about 3% of our list. So what I'm saying is we have a number of properties within specific traveller accommodation sites that we can refurbish when we identify the families to go into them, and we're working through that process. We have a couple of properties being modified at the moment and refurbished for identified families. And then on top of that, I suppose we have stage 1 approval from the department to do a major expansion in Shannon in the Halton site there, or the traveller group scheme there. And we'll be doing a lot of consultation around that with the families involved.
Clarecastle Sinn Féin councillor and member of Clare's Social Development Strategic Policy Committee, Tommy Guilfoyle. Something that you queried today, and once again the figure that hangs over us, we all know, is we've over 2,700 households awaiting social housing here, which is just a huge number. Are you satisfied with the responses you heard today?
Today was a very informative meeting, Daragh. As you know, you were sitting behind me in the press box. There was a lot of topics covered. I do believe that under the new chief executive, there's a massive emphasis on providing houses and homes. I believe that our executive are working hard within the constraints that central government puts down upon them. And I believe that we're addressing homes and housing across the full spectrum: private homes, affordable homes, and social homes. And there's the departments now involved in getting problems out of the way, fixing problems and getting things to move faster, which is a fantastic step in the right direction. But I put an emphasis then, just a question. We have 2,700 over people on the social housing list who cannot qualify for an affordable home, cannot get a mortgage, need a social housing project to come on stream. I just asked, are we planning to build a council estate, a large council estate, to allow us, take that number down? And I believe the answer I got was positive enough that they're looking at all options, and that a council estate is a possible option as well. You with me? So there is a lot of land been rezoned in the recent workshops. under the government guidance to rezone land. There's been a lot of land rezoned, and I would hope that at some stage in one of these zoned areas that a new estate that benefits the whole community will be built in due course.
Another thing, we had the presentation at the very start, while there was no Clare specific targets in it, we were reminded of the goals of the government's National Housing Delivery Plan, which aims to deliver 300,000 homes by the end of the decade. Now, how realistic that is going to be remains to be seen, but one of the key objectives of it, and we heard it again today from Clare's Housing Activation Office and from Sinead O'Donoghue, was that where possible they want to facilitate people living in their own areas. And look, it seems that that's going to be very difficult to do, given we've over 50 towns and villages with no wastewater infrastructure, Clare Abbey at capacity, Clonroad moving close to capacity as well.
100%. The services are a big issue. There has to be a major push to services. Irish Water have to be told to step up now and really get with it, because the fact that they built Clare Abbey that time and didn't build it 5 times bigger than what it was needed is a real mistake made by them. When you're building a project of that kind of infrastructure, it should be built larger than what's needed, and you should be looking at projections of population, etc., so to allow that to fulfil its requirements for decades ahead. Now they have to try and build on it again. There is room down there, and I hope that gets done straight away, because houses and housing projects need that. To live in your community, and I raised this issue with them, is the tenant in situ scheme wasn't really discussed in deep detail, and it's a very I suppose important scheme that if you or I are living in a house, we're paying a rent, and no fault eviction comes our way, and there's no way of us staying in the community because there's no other homes to rent in the community that are affordable to you or I, that the council could purchase that home and we could stay in that home forever as a council tenant. That's a fabulous scheme, and it's still available, and I hope that we use that at every opportunity when that arises, to allow the community to build itself on what they say, that they want to see communities, they want to see people staying in the community. So new housing estates, private, affordable, social, and keeping people in houses. If the owner decides to sell it, why not sell it to the council and let that become a new council stock?
And Tommy, just finally, and look, it is positive to see Clare's Housing Activation Office now doing feasibility studies to see where they can zone land in each area of the county. And look, we didn't have any councillors from the Killaloe MD physically in the chamber today, but the council did have a case study on it, and it showed there that, again, with wastewater capacity, with what's left in the Killaloe MD, there's only space for 108 homes to be built under what's currently there. And that's obviously not just the story there, that's countywide, but that is hugely concerning, because we can talk about all the housing we want in new homes, but if that's the reality, we're not going to be able to build them.
They're 100%, and everybody out there is calling on government to put a massive influx of funding into the amenities needed, and we need to be doing it today to allow the houses of tomorrow to be built. We can't go dragging on about this and talking about this. The government need to step up, give the required funding to whichever utility company it is to build what's needed to allow developers and the council and others build homes, and these homes have services to allow them to the numbers to grow. That has to happen, and I hope government, I hope central government at the moment are sitting up straight in their chairs and are putting that into play.
This broadcast package on Clare FM is funded by the Local Democracy Reporting Scheme.